Good evening and welcome. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Tuesday, July 19th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Draper.
Here.
Ms. Etzel. Mr. Jensen.
Present.
Mayor Abu Asli.
Here.
Ms. Gedalia.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Mr. Sternad.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, we have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Our first item on the agenda is presentation from Hobart Historic Restoration.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This evening I have the honor of introducing to you Jill Carlson and Jim Hobart from Hobart Historic Restoration. Just to outline again the process that we like to facilitate here when we're looking at projects like this. Tonight they will present the project that I know some of you have hopefully had the opportunity to look at in your packets this week. And from here, council will direct staff to keep that process going forward as far as beginning negotiations on what any type of support may look like for this project. So I think it's without being said, we're extremely excited to see potential progress on this site. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Hobart.
Okay, and I will just note that I'm turning the gavel over to Mayor Pro Tem on this item. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city manager, staff. My name is Jim Hobart. I'm affiliated with the Hobart Historic Restoration Group, which is my wife and my son's ownership. We do historic restoration. We've done several buildings in eastern Iowa, 2 in Cedar Rapids. We're doing one in Toledo right now, Iowa City, some work in Illinois, Dubuque, in different areas. A little bit about Hobart Historic Restoration, family owned. I actually started doing restoration in 2010 on historic buildings, and that is our biggest piece of the pie is historic restoration. We also do new construction. We built a building downtown Cedar Rapids right across from the amphitheater called the Metropolitan. So our family, we're at about 20 employees now. We've been in business as a family since 2013. Our family is well invested in the historic restoration community. My wife did sit on HPC for Cedar Rapids. I sit on the SHPO Stakeholders Board at the state level, and we have a historian that sits on HPC at the state level also. We've done numerous projects, like I say, in Cedar Rapids. We've got references for anyone from Jeff Pomerantz, city manager for Cedar Rapids, to Lisa Etkin in Mount Pleasant.
You're on the air. There you go.
Okay. This is Cooper Wagon. This is one of the first projects that I did. 2010 when I started was the old Bricktown Brewery. It originally was a wagon works that wagons were built by the Cooper family. Story goes back that Henry Ford approached Mr. Cooper to build his framework for the Model A when they started that, and Mr. Cooper turned him down. Johnson Block across the street from the Cooper Wagon Works, 8 loft apartments above, commercial space on the main floor, which is Jimmy John's on one side and Capri College store. Their we call it hair boutique, hair salon store. Parish property was an old fraternity in Iowa City. Rehabbed it into 16 loft-style apartments. Maple City Apartments is Monmouth, Illinois. There were about 7 buildings all tied together that we restored in Monmouth. Montloss, Cedar Rapids. That's right behind the police station. We purchased that from the county, rehabbed that. We've got 16 loft apartments with 8,000 square feet of commercial space on the main floor. This is kind of what the interior loft apartments look like on the right. This is what the Mott looks like on the left today. Brazelton Hotel, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Tallest building built when it was built west of the Mississippi was a hotel. We finished rehabbing this in 2015. This is part of the interior. Beautiful windows inside, overlooks the square in Mount Pleasant. This is the Metropolitan. This is the new construction we've done, which is located right across the street from the McGrath Amphitheater. View from the Metropolitan. Interior shots of the Metropolitan. This is the Knutson building, which sits 2 lots over from the Mott behind the police station. The city was going to bulldoze it. We talked the city into letting us rehab it. This is what it looked like. It had a 1,500 square foot hole in the roof. When we got in to stabilize the building, we put all new beams in. 75% of the joists were replaced. And down the lower right-hand corner is what one of the units looks like today. This building is completely full. It's 18 units. This is the Manna Woollen Mill Hotel. This is going to be the Hotel Millwright. We're just starting. Just got contracts signed on it yesterday, matter of fact. It'll be a 65-room boutique hotel with 7,000 square feet of event space, plus an outside amphitheater and other amenities that a hotel and a Manna need. Another shot of what it'll look like, the Woollen Mill. And we've come to 1204 7th Avenue in Marion. We were approached by the bank, Community Savings Bank, to try to resurrect this project. We're very excited about it. We're working with the original architect and the original build-to-suit construction company to do this. We're asking for city support on this. We're asking for some state incentives also to help make this project work. That's it. Any questions?
Can you describe the new building? I know the building is similar to how it was designed in the past, and I was looking at the drawings, but I could not quite decipher how many apartments are on the 2nd and the 3rd floor. I saw there's 2 different sizes, but on a 8.5 by 11 paper, I couldn't determine how many are on each floor. And my other second follow-up question is, where's the parking going to be for this building?
The first question is, we're taking, originally there's 6 units per floor on 2nd and 3rd. We're going up to 8 units. We're going to go more 1-bedroom units. We found in our business that the young professionals much prefer a 1-bedroom rather than a 2-bedroom unit. So we'll end up with 16 total apartments in the building. As for parking, the city has assured us that there's a city lot just catty corner within half a block of the building, which would provide the parking spaces for the building. We also have a very interested party that's in one of our buildings right now, a restaurant that we would bring to this building also, to downtown Marion.
Anything else? Okay, Paul?
I'd just like to, I'd like to say thank you for changing the original look of that building from what we saw previously. I'm one who architecturally really appreciates historical property, and we're building that across the street from 1888, and I appreciate you changing it some, because what we saw before was not to my liking, but
right.
This one's better. So,
Anyone else? No. The buildings that you've done are very impressive.
Yes, and if anyone would like a tour of any of our properties, we're always available. Matter of fact, our office is located in the main floor of the Metropolitan, so we're always available for tours.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation regarding the YMCA Functions Fitness Project. Mr. Bohannon, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How do you turn this on? Missing it? Sorry. Oh, there you go, down in there. Appreciate it. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council, City staff. My name is Zach Bohannon, and as you guys are all aware, I'm, as I've mentioned many times, a lifelong resident and devoted Marionite. For those of you who do not know me, I'm the current project manager for the new recreational facility, YMCA in Marion. Per the council's request, I am here today to provide the city council, and public at large their monthly update on our project. First and foremost, I hope everyone was able to see the front page of this past Sunday, July 15th, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Our city's future facility was highlighted for many reasons. In addition to contrasting the current 55-year-old YMCA and its amenities to the new facility, which I have presented to you guys at previous city council meetings, one of the main points of the story was our recent decision to change locations further west on Tower Terrace Road. I would like to reassure the council that we received unanimous consent by every major stakeholder on making such a change while keeping fiscal responsibility at the forefront of such a big decision. We are saving the project nearly $1 million and increasing our partnership with the City of Marion Parks and Rec Department by creating a city corridor along Irish Drive with easy access to Lowell and Gill Parks. We looked at every possible location in Marion for building our new facility, including keeping it on the current old site. However, we decided we had to place this building in the new geographical center of Marion while providing more outdoor field space for activities. By moving our old 6.5 acre site to the 9 acres along Tower Terrace, we not only have more space on site, but we are in close proximity to more acreage at the nearby parks. For the record, I would like to state we have received nothing but positive feedback on the initial preliminary plat by the surrounding neighbors. This plat was formally submitted to the city last Tuesday. We will be holding a neighborhood gathering in the coming weeks to reassure our commitment to the city's residents that we are providing amenities to only enhance the quality of life around them and their houses. Both our YMCA executive staff and Mike Carolyn's park staff are working diligently to create a unique partnership for a one-stop programming catalog for all of Marion's residents. I would like to personally thank Mr. Carolyn and his department for their time and efforts in this regard. Lastly, I would just like to provide a broad overview on our current funding. Our staff has been able to cut some project expenses to keep our budget of land plus construction costs at the original $19.5 million budget, even against the latest backdrop of national inflationary and tariff threats, which could impede the project if we delay further. Our confirmed funding sources and some outstanding asks we are confident we will receive puts us a little over $14 million. After rolling it out to the public from our quiet phase, which we are still currently under, we believe we will have a roughly $4 to $5 million gap that we are trying to fill through some unlikely major naming rights opportunities. As the Gazette article stated, against all odds, this project continues to push forward and is on the cusp of reality. As the council knows, if our city was not a suburb and an afterthought to the Cedar Rapids community, this new facility would already have been built 20 years ago. However, reality is reality, and every day this project is delayed is one more day Marion residents continue to use the amenities that CR offers. I'd like to conclude by saying our YMCA is doing everything possible in trying to meet our funding gap at the moment to start the construction of this new facility yet later this year. I'd like to ask the city and its council members to continue to help us find a unique and best financing solution to move this project from talk to reality for Marion. Thank you for your time, and I will open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns.
Questions?
Yeah.
Renee?
So the $4 to $5 million gap, and I know you said you're about to take it into more of a public fundraising phase. What's your self-imposed timeline to raise that?
So we were originally looking at doing it in the next 3, 4, 5 months, but it's all pending on if we can acquire one of our big naming rights. Obviously, that big $4 to $5 million gap, as most of you city council members understand, was our original equity stakeholder. We had a third partner in this project with the Linn-Mar Community School District that went off and built their own aquatic center. So that's been that funding gap that we've been trying to figure out how to fit into this puzzle since then for the last 3 or 4 years.
But, so I understand why there's the need, but what deadline have you given yourself to try to get it by? You got to have a target to shoot for, right?
Absolutely, and that's been the biggest challenge with this project. We were talking with our construction team, and it's been this continuous snowball effect of them trying to get us to get more funding, the funding trying to get there further. on our part, and I feel like everyone, and I hear it every single day being the project manager from the project, there's so many people who have said, oh, you've been talking about that for 9-10 years, it's never going to happen. And it's one of those things that it's hard to put a deadline, because if you put a deadline, which we've done 1 or 2 times already on this project, even before I came on board, then the residents think and get frustrated even further that we're not meeting the original deadline goal, if that makes sense.
It does, but I don't necessarily agree that if you don't put, I think you need to have some kind of deadline, because then it has the accountability factor of, if you say it's a year for $5 million, every month you need to make X amount toward that goal, and then you know if you're on target or picking up the pace or being able to focus on something else. So it doesn't sound like there's a hard deadline. I realize there needs to be some flexibility, but I would like to hear of one or understand one, because I feel like without one, it just allows it to continue to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for the update, though.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have one. I would like to, and my calls I'm getting are from the south side.
Yes, sir.
And we're kind of closing those kids out in a way. From way southeast, it's closer to go to Cedar Rapids. And what I would like to see is our trail people saving some of that money and working on a way along with you guys to figure out how we can get a trail out there to this new site. You know, we've had kids on the south side of town that have had the Y easy to get to, and we need to make it as easy for them to get to as we can, and we need to make an effort for you to get together with our trail gal and figure out how you're going to do that.
Yes, sir, and I believe we are actively working on not only having trails from Lau Park all the way down that corridor, and including connected to Linmar Community School District, that area, which then obviously goes down to the southern border. But also, I believe it's in the works on having a main bus route through Tower Terrace corridor as well.
That's going to be a secret, because the kids can't really get to the amphitheater on, at Lau Park either,
Yep.
And without going through grass. So if you could figure out a way to get the trail out to Tower Terrace and then along Tower Terrace out to your new site, that's what we need to do.
Yes, sir. I will definitely take that into consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Zach, I would just jump back in and say I'm a huge fan of the new location, too. So I think that's great news. I'm glad it's generating a positive buzz, and hopefully this headline, that big chunk of information, will be catalysts to kind of get this bubbling up and get some more interest, particularly from more of a public fundraising standpoint, too.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And that's what the whole intent of the article was to proclaim our need for it and get it out there.
Yeah.
Other questions for Zach? Okay. Thanks for the update.
Thank you. I appreciate your guys' time.
Moving on with the consent calendar.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, and this will include items number 1 through 29D, and this will cover resolution numbers 27010 through 27033.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented, items 1 through 29, and including resolutions 27010 through 27033. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. For the next section, I will turn over the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
Well,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with Mayor Abouasley's abstention from voting and discussion regarding the following items as presented. That would be 30, 31, and 32, which include resolution number 27034.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Will and a second by Steve. Any discussion? Okay, thank you again to Mr. Hobart for coming and being available tonight. I don't know where he went to give the presentation. Okay, so all those in favor of resolution number 27034 and items 31, and 32, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? And I'm giving the gavel back to the mayor.
Okay, under Finance, we have a public hearing regarding amendments to the fiscal year 2018-2023 Capital Improvement Program. The public hearing is now open. Do we have a little presentation on this?
I can speak in terms of the eco-industrial park. Mike can touch on the sanitary sewer capacity study. As the council is aware, we briefed the council in terms of moving forward with the projects associated with phase 1 of the eco-industrial park. Next step with this project is to approve a construction manager's agreement, and then we'll be back to the council to start setting public hearings for issuance of the financial mechanisms. And so in all, what we're looking at doing is building a new public service facility, estimated cost at $7 million. With that, we'll be procuring a new fleet to run off of compressed natural gas. As we get closer to pinning exactly how we're going to do that down, we'll be back to the city council to hold those hearings as well. So.
As far as the other one, we did the traffic study for the 29th Avenue and Indian Creek traffic study. We had $200,000 that was allocated as part of the CIP. The traffic study cost about $30,000, and we had both short-term and long-term recommendations. None of the short-term recommendations were recommended to move forward, and the long-term is out farther, so we don't need to expend that money yet. With some other projects, we found that we needed to have a sanitary sewer study completed. That way we can figure out how much our sanitary sewer is undersized, and so we're allocating, it was $91,000 and change to HDR to do that study.
Okay. All right, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this measure? Please come forward. This is the public hearing portion. If there's anyone here to speak in favor of the measure, please come forward. Okay, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll close the public hearing.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27035, approving the amendment to the fiscal year 2018 through 2023 capital improvement project to reflect estimates for Echo Industrial Park Public Services Facility project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27035, approving the amendment to the fiscal year 2018 through 2023 capital improvement program to reflect estimates for the Eco-Industrial Park Public Services Facility project. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Yes, Your Honor, I have resolution 27036, approving an amendment to the fiscal year 23 capital improvement program to reflect expenditure changes regarding 29th Avenue and Indian Creek intersection improvement projects in the 2018 sanitary sewer capacity study.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilman Draper and seconded by Councilman Brandt to approve resolution number 27036, approving the amendment to the fiscal year 2018 through 2023 capital improvement program to reflect expenditure changes regarding the 29th Avenue and Indian Creek intersection improvement project and the 2018 sanitary sewer capacity study. Any discussion on that motion?
Just a quick question. The remaining $80,000, where does that go?
So originally it was $200,000 for the 29th and Indian Creek. We're asking for the $91,500 to go towards the sanitary sewer study. The remaining just goes back into the CIP and gets eligible for other projects.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to review the regulations regarding fireworks.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to review regulations regarding fireworks. And so that will result in coming back with a recommendation for any changes that the staff would recommend. Is that what the plan is? Okay. Any discussion, questions from council on that?
I have one. Based on what we talked about Tuesday, so that's going to be recommendations on maybe zoning changes and maybe a tiered fine system. Is that right? Is there anything else?
A scheduled fine system. Yeah.
The police department is currently, I've assigned a commander to look at the tiered fine structure for council to recommend.
Thank you.
Okay.
And were we going to look at some legal aspects as well?
Yes.
So I did have a little conversation with the mayor.
For purposes of the recording, this is the city attorney.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So
people are listening at home.
Yes, Ryan Tang, city attorney. The question was posed to me during the session whether or not it would be possible to ban the use of certain types of fireworks that would otherwise be legal for sale. And I had opined that it was my thought that as long as it was an allowable specific type of firework within that category for sale, that we could not ban a specific type within it, we could not ban its use. I am here to tell the council that my colleagues have overruled me on that opinion, and that opinion should be disregarded. We did discuss the matter and staff that. We believe that you could, in fact, pass a resolution that, say, banned bottle rockets or something like that. Ban the use of. We could not necessarily ban the sale of, but we could ban the use of them. So disregard what I said on Tuesday night.
That's all right. This is really, it's untested, and everyone's figuring this out. So we appreciate your looking into it further.
So even though there's a whole bunch of things in one category, we could cherry pick? Is that what you're saying? Possibly?
I don't believe there's anything to prevent us from doing that at this point. But to be clear, we would be banning the use, not the sale.
Right.
That's a big difference between the sale of and the use of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were trying to go after, could we restrict the sale of? And at this point in time, you're saying the answer to that is no.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But we could conceivably ban the use of within corporate city limits.
Okay.
Did you find out if there was any other cities that have banned the use of ones that shoot in the air or specific types, or if there's been any?
Not any that have banned specific categories or
No one
specific types. The most of the cities that have gone with a use ban is just a blanket ban. So.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Okay, on to the community development calendar, or section, sorry.
Your Honor, I move to make a motion to receive and file correspondence from Involta LLC regarding REC Drive.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to receive and file correspondence received from Involta LLC regarding REC Drive. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion to receive and file, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
I make a motion to receive and file correspondence from Lynn County Rural Electric Cooperative regarding REC Drive.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to receive and file correspondence from Lynn County Rural Electric Cooperative regarding REC Drive. Discussion? All those opposed, all those in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
Quick
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
What's our next step on this? I wonder, we're going to receive and file this. When can we expect something back?
What do you mean?
Well, we had.
So it's on the agenda following, we'll be discussing it on the next item in the
Okay.
agenda. Is that?
All right.
what you're
Next
talking-
resolution.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
so that
gotcha.
correspondence was regarding that.
I just didn't want to receive and file and wait forever. So, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good. All those in favor of receiving and filing the correspondence from Lynn County Rural Electric Cooperative, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Okay, Mr. Sternad?
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27037 regarding a resolution of necessity for the installation of REC Drive per the approved memorandum of agreement for Lot 1, REC Second Edition to the City of Marion, Lynn County, Iowa.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27037 regarding a resolution of necessity for the installation of REC Drive for the approved memorandum of agreement for Lot 1, REC Second Edition to the City of Marion, Lynn County, Iowa. Okay, discussion. Any discussion? You have questions?
Go ahead.
Well, I know we do have the affected party here who would like to address the council, and I've said that we would take their comment, but I wanted to know if there's any preliminary discussion before we hear from them.
No, let's listen to him first.
Okay. Would you like to address the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Randy Rings. I'm the Chief Counsel and Chief Administrative Officer for Involta. We're here tonight to oppose the adoption of the proposed resolution of necessity requiring the immediate extension of REC Drive. We're opposed preliminarily for a couple. Main reason is we've proposed an alternative solution. We would like to pursue an amendment to our development agreement, and that amendment would call for us to assume the responsibility for overseeing the construction of the extension of REC Drive at such time as the farm ground immediately to the west is developed and there's a need to complete REC Drive Street through that process. We're open to discuss potential security and other methods to protect the city against any delays caused during that time frame. There are a couple of practical reasons we think that this is the best solution. The first is we currently don't have any direct agreement with the city regarding how the extension would occur. I did hear on my drive here tonight from the city attorney's office that their view is that the development agreement with Lynn County REC actually goes with the land, provides adequate notices and binding on successors and assigns, including us, and that would be the basis on which they would pursue the activity from us. But we have no direct contract, so by amending our development agreement, we can very clearly lay out and have no question in the future of the process and the procedures we'd use to have this completed when it's logical and necessary. The second practical reason we think this should not be an immediate extension is this is a resolution of necessity and it's simply not needed. The extension we're talking about is approximately 420 feet that runs from our driveway to a cornfield, and it goes no further. And we cannot see that that would serve any purpose. More importantly, we think there are some other factors that deserve deeper evaluation and consideration. There's been a lot of discussion in the last 2 weeks that I've heard about risk for the city and risk for others. We think that's a very good approach to the process to understand and analyze the risk of what could happen in this situation. In our opinion, the first and most important factor is safety. We think that an extension of REC Drive would drastically decrease the safety in our neighborhood. We feel that a dead-end street like that only leads to people using it who are people looking to hide or go somewhere where there's no traffic. You've received a letter tonight from Lynn County REC, our neighbor to the east. They agree with that. I know that yesterday a letter from IMON Communication, one of the good city partners, was received. I don't know if I assume that you all were provided with a copy of that. I'm on communications as a customer of Involta. They maintain a satellite farm on the premises. They feel strongly the same way, that it would raise safety concerns. I also spoke to the church, and they feel the same way. The pastor attempted today to communicate through the email system. I don't know if he was successful. He said to me that he attempted to, but I can't confirm one way or another whether they did. But the information we have is that all the users of the street and all the people that use the neighborhood are of the opinion that it would decrease the safety and create risk. Most importantly, from my view, if we analyze that, is if we're wrong, then there's no harm, but there's also no gain. If I'm right, there's still no gain. We only have 420 feet to a cornfield, but we do have harm. So it seems the risk cuts pretty clearly in favor of not completing this extension. Secondly is the question of economic development, which is also a risk. We purchased that property very intentionally after a thorough analysis. We've been very happy. We've enjoyed a very strong relationship with the city. We bought the property with the ability to expand there. We are approaching capacity in our facility. When we do that, just like we do in the other 17 data centers we have to evaluate where and how and when we want to expand. We have a prime opportunity in Marion. But our investors and our capital policies require us to make a return on our capital investment, and if we have to make that investment in a street that generates no revenue, then we have to find some other way to cover that return and make that before we have any further development. I don't know if we will or won't, but I can tell you, because I know how our evaluation works, that it is very clearly a risk that it'll either deter or prohibit any further development on the property, and we think that would be very unfortunate. Third, we've worked closely with the city and think that collectively the business community and the city leadership and the city staff has done a very good job of creating a very business-friendly environment. And I think this action could create a risk to change that perception, and we think that would be unfortunate. I've been told, I don't know if it's been received, that Medco also is submitting a letter in support of our position. I know Mr. Sullivan's here. They can speak for Lynn County REC. Mr. Glue is here. He can confirm. But our view is that it would be detrimental both, as I said, to economic development, but also to a business-friendly environment. It would not be perceived that way from our opinion, or from our perspective, and we would have to confirm it in that manner. Now, I do want to recognize there is risk to the city. I don't doubt that. I don't challenge that. The question is measuring that risk against all the others and what risk can be mitigated. We believe we can adequately mitigate the risk for the city, primarily because that risk, in our opinion, is small. The property to the west was not developed and not in the city when we elected to put the data center there. It's one of the reasons that we put it there, because the people that own the property said, as long as they can foresee in their lifetimes and in generations to come, it'll never be developed. That's a good thing for us. The longer that happens, it actually is an asset to a data center. I expect you know that we went through an RFP process, a fairly extensive one, and we provide important communication services and protection to your assets and your operations of the city. They're there, and one of the reasons we won is because of that asset value in our data center. We understand, after nearly a decade of those statements being true, that the owners of the property still feel the same way. No interest or desire for annexation, no interest or desire for any development any time in the foreseeable future. However, we recognize that could change. And if that changes, then the street would need to be put in. There's also a risk that Involta either fails or refuses to perform at that time. We think the combination of the property that says it'll never be developed actually being developed, with Involta, who's consistently said we're prepared to do our part and develop the street, not being able to do the street, is a very unlikely combination of events. If, however, it happens, we'd like to work with the city to develop tools to protect you against that risk. Tools like clarifying perhaps a lien on the property beyond a development agreement. We'd be open to those conversations. We'd have to speak to our lender about how we work on priority issues, but there'd be a vehicle there for you to have protection. we'd be open to coming to meet with the city staff on a regular basis. We do this with other customers and reviewing our financial condition, our financial position, and agreeing that if there's a reasonable belief that we're unable to perform this financial obligation, we'll post a bond, or we'll provide some other form of credit, a letter of credit or some other surety, so that the city can know that it has a way to fund the street. Ultimately, at the end of the process, we think it'd be most efficient because we're willing to assume the responsibility to manage and coordinate the installation when the time is logical and appropriate, make sure it's done on time, done correctly. We'll fund the project preliminarily, collect funds from other parties as long as the church is willing to sign an agreement to that effect. They've indicated that they are. So as I look at the sum of all of these risks together, it appears to us that the near-term risk of harm, both to development, to the reputation of the city, and to safety in the area, far outweigh the risk of inability to perform or have the street installed in the future, which we can mitigate with other opportunities. And finally, and I believe that Nick submitted pictures, there is a matter of maintenance. And while we understand that having deferments is a matter that you have to track, again, a responsibility we're willing to assume. If you want us to do annual reports on the deferment to make sure that it doesn't get lost and it's there and we're available to respond, we're happy to do that. Because the other alternative is a street that never gets developed and never gets completed, and it has to be maintained forever, which you know and you've seen has happened in the city. So for those reasons, we would like you to turn down the request for the resolution of necessity and allow us to pursue an amendment to our development agreement. It's what all the neighbors in the neighborhood would like to have happen. I'm willing to take questions if you have questions for me.
We have questions? I have questions for staff. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments. And we have received letters from the Lynn County REC and from Medco. Did you have some brief comments, sir? Or okay. Yeah. Please.
Just for the record, again, Terry Sullivan, CEO of Lynn County REC. I won't go through a long repeat process, but again, our biggest concerns regarding it, and for the record, Involta is one of our larger customers, not only in Marion, but overall. Having expansion of customers for us with a lot of Marion residents, as well as our other customers, help do keep our rates down. So that is a big thing for us. The second thing is outlined in my letter. We have issues regarding the safety of that issue, that an additional dead end, basically that dead end street being extended. Again, as if you've been by the property, Involta keeps a low profile by its nature, because again, a data center is not something typically gets advertised, its location. By that, and again, the church being further up back into the street, extending that 400 or 420 feet, I believe it was outlined by Mr. Rings, leads to a potential area where, as outlined in my letter to the city, I do have concerns regarding safety, whether that be drag racing, whether that be partying. We are 24/7 by operation, meaning our bulk of our employees do not work 24/7, but we service the community, again, any outages, anything, all times and all hours of the day. So we're pulling trucks in and out as needed to service our customers. So again, I don't know the status of the development. What I've been informed is not imminent for that street to go through. That's an issue between the city and landowners and timing. But again, our major concern probably in that area definitely is safety. So I would take any questions or concerns.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Discussion?
Sure, I'll start.
Yep, go ahead.
So we talked about this Tuesday evening, and based on the information presented at that time, I was definitely leaning towards supporting this resolution. But hearing the arguments made this evening, receiving the correspondences that we received, and one of the things I was hanging my hat on Tuesday was the fire chief's safety concern of not having a second entrance or exit, I believe, at the church, which the chief has come back and stated that there actually is a second entrance. So with that in mind and all of the other reasons presented, and every neighbor Really, I feel confident in deferring this as long as we can have the assurance that Randy said we can work out with staff in terms of whether it's a lien or specific language in terms of the obligation of paying for the road. But I feel very comfortable with the status quo in terms of leaving the road as is for now.
Other thoughts?
Well,
I'd like to know how everybody feels about this.
I couldn't help but to notice in the Medco letter, they're asking when we delay the vote on this matter while workable arrangements to finalize and address all staff concerns. And with that in mind, I'd like to move we table this.
To allow staff to
Right. Allow staff to bring it back after they've satisfied their concerns. Could be next meeting, could be a month from now.
And is that to include a draft for a new memorandum agreement?
Yes, because this isn't working the way it
Because
is.
the memorandum agreement, if I'm understanding, would have to include Involta and the Methodist Church?
Before we discuss it, let's see if there's a second to the motion first.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a second and a motion to table the resolution. Now, go ahead with Steve with your...
So my question would be, if we talked about this memorandum of agreement, is that to be an agreement that would include both Involta and the Methodist Church?
Wait, the question is to the staff, right? Or, I mean, we're not taking...
I don't know who can answer
The
that.
staff.
Tom?
I'm sorry, thanks.
Or
I was
Mr.
just going to
Raines?
suggest that it might be helpful for the council, since you don't work with us every day, to have the staff brief you on what options are available underneath the existing code right now.
Okay.
Okay. So is that relevant to the motion at table? Or...
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
because-
okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think, we're stuck in a position where we've got a property owner to the north that has the dollars, and they have a final plat and they have some agreements in place that really, from our perspective, they've put in a letter of surety that needs to be completed within a year, and if they don't get those improvements completed, they provide a cash escrow, or they have to continue to get a letter. In the instance that we're sitting in, the question is, what do we do with both parties? One option that does exist is if we get a cash payment for the road associated with the engineering estimates from both parties, and then everybody's made whole, but those are today's dollars and not future dollars. So 10 years from now, if that extension does get completed, the cost would obviously be more. So that's one option.
Yeah, and that would be on the city.
Yeah, then the city would ultimately, or what we normally do is contract with the developer who develops to the west, because it probably wouldn't happen until that does occur, and then we would just pay the difference of the extending the road to their development. As it stands, we'd still right now stop about 60 foot short of the end, just because you can't tie in the grading lines for any future development as it sits. So what we're trying to do is just either get through the deferral process or get the cash in lieu of. The option that's being presented, I think, is certainly something that we would support sitting down and having a conversation with, without a doubt. It's just we've been talking about this for a period of time, and getting it off center, I think, is where we're at. If the city's made whole and we're protected into the future, I mean, I think that's the goal. We're just sitting here kind of with our hands tied when you have a business, the church to the north, they got a letter of credit that's actually, I think it's expired. So we've got some issues there. And what are they to do? Are they going to give us a cash payment? Do they renew their letter of credit, which costs them money? So we're in a situation where we got to either move forward and take action on the deferral, collect the cash so that everybody's made whole, or we can enter into an agreement. And if we can come to terms, by all means, that's the way to do it. I mean, I would completely agree.
So you would be okay with tabling it to allow this discussion to happen?
Yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That, I think, would be the action we'd want to see occur, is to table it. And the reason I say that is we're all busy. Everybody's got things going on. But this is something we just need some finality to. I think the church does as well. They're kind of stuck in that situation where, do they renew their letter? Do they write us a check? That ties up their capital. I think they're going to have some questions with regard to how they are making their appropriate payment into the future, and maybe REC's or Volta's had some conversations.
There could be a situation where you're comfortable with the assurances that we would have, because I mean I see I see both sides, and I mean I see your side of where we want to make sure this gets done. I see the other arguments about the safety, the having a road that needs maintenance and that's really not serving anyone. I see both sides, but I also I want to make sure that you would be satisfied and comfortable that you have the assurances you need, and if we're able to get the parties together to just talk about it and see if you can get to that point. Maybe you won't, and you'll come back and say we didn't get to that point, and then
and I think
I would be in favor of proceeding with the resolution. But if we can take a little bit of time, then maybe worthwhile to see if you can get to a point where you're satisfied and they're satisfied in terms of their goals. That would be my position. But anybody else? We're still talking about the motion to table. So, yep.
Well, yeah, my opinion, I've driven out there a couple of times, and I agree that I don't see the benefit of putting cement in the ground that's going nowhere, that is not going to be used by anybody. But I certainly would be pretty adamant about having an agreement that is going to give the city some peace of mind on how this is going to progress forward, and have an assurance that it will happen in the future. And I'm assuming that agreement has to encompass both Volta and the church to cover both sides. So I'm fine with the table and moving ahead in that direction as well.
If I can just make one.
Yes, sir.
The critical thing from our perspective is 10 years down the road, when let's say the property is developing, that road gets connected, and everything's very clear on how that occurs. And I think that's all we're trying to get to.
Okay.
Right now, it's very fuzzy,
right?
And we just can't have that.
And I understand, because we've had experience with deferrals of various things that have just come back to bite us, right? And,
absolutely.
So whatever is agreed to needs to be clear and have the the necessary assurances and teeth in it, I think, for the city to feel comfortable that this is going to happen, and we're not going to have the issues that we've experienced with other projects. So, other comments?
No, I totally agree. I think we got to have it brought up to date and ready to go. So when we're to that point, we all know what the plan is. So deferring it is a huge benefit to everybody. It's a financial relief at this point. I just wanted to kind of throw out a little point here about the gentleman's point number 2. Your capital investors looking at returns on dollars, it's going to cost more to do it later. We know that. So I don't know if I agree with that one today, but it's going to cost more to do it. So whatever agreements we have out there as far as amendments or deferrals, and it just, we need to get it up. I'm not in favor of taking any money. I think that's, if they're wanting to push for a deferral, then it'll be at those new dollars. So that would be my opinion. I'm not interested in taking the monies today and sitting on it. So that's
So you're
the
not in
trade-off.
favor of the city paying any difference in the future?
Correct.
When it happens, the party pays the entire.
That's right.
The
That's
entire
what-
cost, which is their obligation.
Yep.
I would
Okay.
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would agree.
Okay. Just curious, what is the approximate value of this, putting in this road?
I believe the estimate for both sides from the church was 150,000.
157, I think. Yeah.
That's the total cost of the road.
Today.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments? Okay, so we'll vote on the motion to table. And does that just assume that we're tabling it to allow staff and Volta to talk further about? Yeah. about coming to some agreement? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to table, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, the motion is approved, and we'll look forward to hearing something in the future. Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I have Resolution 26,975, approving a final plat and memorandum of agreement for Stonefield Commercial First Edition, located south of Tower Terrace Road, west and north of 3rd Street. Synergy Equity Partners, LLC. This was removed from the agenda on 6/21/18.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26975, approving a final plat and memorandum of agreement for Stonefield Commercial First Edition, located south of Tower Terrace Road, west and north of 3rd Avenue. Discussion.
Should that be preliminary and not final plat? Because wasn't the preliminary defeated?
No, this is Tower Terrace Road, west of 3rd.
Yeah, this is, you're thinking.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I'm going to go back to sleep now.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion is approved. For the next several items, I will turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider resolution number 27007, approving a preliminary site development plan for Bluebird Square located on the northeast corner of Highway 13 and 151. This is high property management and development, and this failed July 5th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve and a second by Paul to reconsider. It doesn't say here, but I'm assuming we would have some more information. Someone presenting something, or we're just going to...
Just rather to bring it back up, yeah.
The next item on the agenda would place it on the first council meeting in August, and that would be when the developer would come in and make a presentation. Any additional information we'd have would have to be submitted through staff before then.
Okay, so this gives the opportunity
to place it on the future agenda.
To place it on, and okay, got it. Any further discussion or questions?
Well, again, I'm the one that asked for this reconsideration, and my rationale is that I think there might have been some misunderstanding of some of the discussion 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this, maybe more misunderstanding by Mr. High on some of the comments he did or did not make based upon all of the comments we made to him about the project. So overall, the project has a lot of merit. He's done a lot of work on it. He's a developer with a very good reputation. So I think some of the comments he made, most of the issue most of us had at that point in time was the density. There were some comments about the design of it, some of the appearance of it, and some of the architectural work, but the major one seemed to be the density. Two of us talked about at that time about indicating to Mr. High we thought if we would be willing to approve the preliminary plat, we indicated that we certainly would not approve the final plat at that time because that was on the next item on the agenda. So I believe this project is far enough along, has enough input from the City Council to Mr. High that to bring it back on as a preliminary site development plan gives him the opportunity to come back to us with additional changes and comments on what he's going to do before we approve the final plat. So he can't get a building permit until he gets his final plat. So I think the project is far enough along. I also understand that if we do not reconsider this, the entire project goes back through P&Z and probably adds another 2 to 3 months to the process, which would probably not allow him any time to get any construction done by the end of this year. So again, those are the reasons that I thought it merited reconsideration.
Anyone else?
I'll just chime in real quick. You mentioned density as one of the issues.
Yes.
I think cost of, or the amount of rent also was an issue too, and hopefully he addresses both of them.
Those go hand in hand. So the density, what he's talking about is, as far as the rent rate, we're talking about meeting some of the needs and objectives of the city based upon the housing study that was done. And so in a short phone call I had with him a week ago, he did indicate that he was looking at changing some of the designs of the buildings to address that. So again, I think he's...
The rates.
The rates, correctly. So he would have to redesign the buildings, which would mean some of the rates would have to increase to accommodate some of the housing needs comments that we presented 2 weeks ago. So he just indicated to me on the phone that he listened to our comments, he understands them, he's already been actively figuring out how to deal with those comments and come back with a presentation on how he would meet those.
Okay.
Anyone else? For my part, I would say I haven't, had a conversation about this since Mr. High was in front of us. Had he agreed to do some of the things with the density, et cetera, that evening, I would have voted in favor. He didn't. It sounds like he didn't understand, or he's willing to do it now. I also know that we have the opportunity to not approve the final plat if we're not happy with these changes. So I would love to see this, again, meet our housing needs, which was one of the reasons I voted against this initially. If he's willing to reconsider that and do what the city needs or fulfill some of our gaps, then that is great. I know he was already amenable to some of the physical changes, I think, that were pointed out. My only question is for Tom. So this obviously circumvents going back through P&Z 3 times, et cetera. Are you comfortable with this, if this goes forward tonight, not going through as a preliminary plat, going back through with the changes he might be proposing?
So just for clarification, the council's been talking about it from a platting perspective.
Yep.
So it's not the
design.
Plat. It's the site development plan.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different in that the site design layout. So from that perspective, what you would be seeing at the next meeting would be what was presented, or if there's modifications that which I think there were some modifications that were made between P&Z and council, and so those things would be the same, because I believe that the requirement is that you review the materials that were provided at that meeting. I think the real question would come as to what would happen between that and the final site development plan. It's always the council's option to say, hey, you know what, time out, so much has changed, I want P&Z to look at this again, which could be a separate action. The difference between the council saying you need to go back and have P&Z do this, or the denial, is that all of a sudden we're in a position where you can't resubmit the same thing, because you can imagine what would happen.
Sure.
It could just tie. So there'd have to be monumental changes, a new application, and we would start, quote unquote, from scratch with a new application proceeding. So there's always that option that if you feel that way, if the council feels that way, it can be directed back. I've been working with Daryl, Dave and I in the office for some time. I think the changes that were presented to the council that were different than P&Z were material changes, which I don't think would circumvent any of the planning commission's authority or recommendations, or have major consequences, and I don't think that would happen. But clearly that's a council decision as well. If we'll point them out if the council feels that there needs to be another review, that's other direction. But even that, from a timing perspective, that's still a shorter timing than a denial and starting over, because it'd be about a month. So does that answer?
It does.
Okay.
It does. I feel more comfortable with that, having that knowledge. So.
Yep.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
just for clarification, Tom, do we expect him to come back and we'll be talking about the same preliminary site development plan, and then he'll add narrative changes or communicate changes he's anticipating making, versus him coming back with a new preliminary site development plan? So the changes will be done verbally, not in the plan itself.
I think he could present them conceptually, but I think
Right.
the action, and maybe legal can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you go for the reconsideration, I believe they have to reconsider the action that was on the agenda.
So we're, exactly the same one, and then he will add comments about how he's addressing what he heard from us 2 weeks ago.
I'm imagining that it'd be like during his presentation, he'd say, this is kind of what I'm thinking.
And we'd amend it.
Right, okay. Well, he'll amend it in the
Yeah.
final plan. Yeah, okay. All right,
Yep, so we still have the opportunity.
in the final plan.
Right,
Yes.
okay. Thank you, Tom. Anyone else?
I see legal talk, and I'd like to hear from legal. What, are we expecting the same presentation?
I don't know.
I'm out on this one. I'm going to be a no yet.
So the item that would be up for reconsideration specifically would be the resolution. The resolution that was presented, 27007. And so that resolution needs to be reconsidered as it's drafted. Mr. High can certainly come in and give a different presentation in terms of the content of what it is he intends to do moving forward. So in that regard, I would say you'll be reconsidering the exact same resolution. I don't know that you would necessarily receive the exact same presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion by Steve, a second by Paul, to reconsider resolution number 27007. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstaining?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Will?
I make a motion directing staff to place resolution number 27007 approving a preliminary site development plan for Bluebird Square located on the northeast corner of Highway 13 and 151 on the agenda of the August 9th, 2018 City Council meeting. High Property Management and Development failed 7/5/18.
Second?
Okay, motion by Will and a second by Steve. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
No.
Abstain.
Okay. Randy?
This will be making a motion to approve ordinance number 18-19, approving and rezoning from restricted industrial I-1 to general commercial C3, and from Lynn County Agriculture to restricted industrial I-1 into general commercial C3, located east of the Marion Airport runway and south of Marion Airport Road. This will be Genesis Equities Land Holdings, LLC, for final consideration.
Second.
Motion by Randy and a second by Will. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of ordinance number 18-19, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Abstaining.
Aaron, I have resolution 27,038, approving Marion Acom Park preliminary plat located east of the Marion Airport runway and south of the Marion Airport Road, Genesis Equity and Land Holdings.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Paul and a second by Steve. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 27038, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Abstaining.
Okay, Steve?
Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 27039, approving plat of survey number 2274 for property located south of Marion Airport Road and east of the airport, Luxair Aviation.
Second.
Motion by Steve and a second by Will. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 27039, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention?
Abstain.
Okay, I will, oh no, I have one more. Okay. Will.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 27040, approving a final plat and memorandum of agreement for Hunter's Ridge North First Edition, located east of Winslow Road and north of Stag's Leap Lane, Midwest Development Company.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Motion by Will and a second by
Everybody's second.
Paul. Yeah, right. Any discussion? Is this the one that's going to have the little private, the first private mini roundabout? Okay. That's all I had. Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 27040, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions?
Abstaining.
Okay, I'll relinquish the gavel back to the mayor.
I'd like to make a motion to approve directing staff to explore options regarding the brick house located at 525 11th Street, Marion, Iowa.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to explore options regarding the brick house located at 525 11th Street. Discussion?
That's all I can say Tuesday.
Okay. What kind of timeline would we be on to get something back, do you think, Lon? What's the realistic?
We'll make every effort to get you something on it in August. I can't promise that it would be at the first or the second meeting, but it just depends on how long it takes us to assemble the information.
Okay. Other discussion or questions?
Where'd Mr. Hobart go? All right. Okay. Yeah.
He's in bigger projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following hold harmless and noise waiver agreements. House move 1375 8th Avenue to 1060 29th Street, July 31, 2018, from 8 till noon. Larry Nassett, who lives at 1375 8th Avenue. Live music featuring Anderson Cotis and Clayton Drayden, Uptown Alleyway, Artway, July 21, 18, 8:30 to 9:30, and August 4th of 18 from 7 to 8:15.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the hold harmless noise waiver agreements with House Move and Larry Nessett and live music requested by Anderson Coates. Discussion.
Yeah, I have to say something funny here. It's totally just a duh moment I had, but I saw this house move, and I'm like, wow, when I move, maybe I can do the same thing, and the road's closed down, and you can just get your stuff
Police
A to B.
escort.
Yeah, police. I'm like, they're requesting 3 police, so we're going to do that? And then I realized the house will be on wheels, and
Yeah,
it's not,
big wheels.
like a Penske truck or anything, and I was like, okay.
We'll get
Duh,
4
so-
officers and the chief when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just had a moment, but I just thought I'd share because I was
I was pleased it was going to turn before it went around the roundabout.
right.
Tom, I got a question for Tom. Do we have everything in place here? Our last move in the city obviously had a few hiccups or details to it. Yeah, do we have those secured on this one? Excellent.
Yes, it's not, we've got a little more confidence in the situation that exists.
I know the circumstances are a little different, but I was just concerned that the back end of this was set up. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, will someone make the motion for the reappointments?
Sure, Your Honor. I would move that we appoint Eileen Robinson of 3560 28th Avenue to the Library Board of Trustees. Term expires June 30th of 2024. Also Kimberly Rose of 616 Raleigh Lane to the Library Board of Trustees. Term expires June 30th of 2024. And lastly, Sally Reck, 2305 Coventry Court, to the Library Board of Trustees. Term expires June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to reappoint Eileen Robinson, Kimberly Rose, and Sally Reck to terms expiring on June 30th, 2024 on the Library Board of Trustees. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. At this time, we have time for citizen presentations. If there's anyone here to address the council on any item that is of concern to them, please come forward. Yes, please. There you go. And then please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Jed Pastersky, 895 7th Avenue, Marion. I own JP Plumbing and JP Fireworks.
Welcome.
I just wanted to, I heard on the news that you guys were talking about maybe changing things to industrial areas only. I made a pretty sizable investment into fireworks, and didn't go quite the way I planned this year, so I have I paid for a lot of extra, and they won't refund it. So I have to be open next year, or otherwise I'm going to lose my shirt. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So hopefully you guys can leave me open next year. That's all I needed.
Yeah, my wife asked me the question, what do those people do with all the leftover fireworks? Can they return it? And I go, I don't know. And you just answered that question?
I made an investment in Missouri, and they send me what I ordered, but I had to, in order to get a sizable discount, I had to pay for them up front. So here I am.
But you cannot return?
They won't give me my money
leftover
back.
Fireworks?
All they said was they'll just have to let that money carry over till next year.
Do they expire? Wouldn't they expire?
Well, they keep in Missouri, they have a wholesale house that has a better turnaround than we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the only brick and mortar store this year?
No, we had a couple.
There were
We
a couple.
actually had several apply, but we only had 3 that actually sold.
Oh.
So.
I never saw the other 2.
So if you, may I keep you for a second, Jay? So if it's exclusively only able to be sold in industrial, you wouldn't consider putting up a tent in industrial is that not a plan B?
I mean, it's definitely a plan B, but it's going to be a lot more investment. And it was really hard to make money already this year. So if I had to, pay for a tent and then pay for rent, it'd be even harder to make money, you know what I mean? I don't think any of the tents are coming back.
There'd be a whole lot less competition next year.
Because nobody made money.
Even if we didn't make a change, there would be less here.
Yes.
But if we do it industrial only, that would even shrink it more.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm here, just Mayor Nick, Judy Soluri, 1785 Grand Avenue, Marion. Mayor Nick, Abuasli, and City Council members. I'm a new member of the Historic Preservation Committee, and I had to miss Tuesday council work session, but I did see where the future of the brick home at 525 11th Street was discussed, and I don't know how much of the historical, the history of the house you mentioned, Paul. But we were given a short history of the house at our last meeting. Lot 5, Block 29, had quite a few owners, including Samuel Tallman, William Woodbridge, and Robert and Martha Shin, who sold it to Elizabeth Carnegie in 1849 for the property for $25. Mrs. Carnegie had arrived in Lynn County with her husband Nathaniel and their 5 children before 1847. Of note, one of the first known murder cases in the county was that of Nathan Carnegie, who was brutally assaulted by James Reed in Marion in 1847. Reed had been drinking heavily and got into a quarrel with Carnegie about some old trouble. Reed was arrested, tried before a jury, and acquitted. Was this pioneer justice? By the 1850 census, Elizabeth was living east of Indian Creek, but still owned this lot in town. Lot 6 of this block, which is just to the south of Lot 5 and among its owners were James Bennett, Emma Ramsey, and John Zumbro. I was looking through the big yellow book, and John Zumbro was a lumberman and quite a businessman. On December 12, 1865, Zumbro sold Lot 6 to Charles and Elizabeth Carnegie Folk, who was by then remarried, for $150. Elizabeth had then remarried Charles Folk. They then had a couple of mortgages on it, but the land was paid in full by 1875. The Folks built the brick house on Lot 6, seemingly beginning construction in 1867. Several liens were filed along the way, but the deed was signed over to them in 1872. The original house was a simple rectangular box with a shallow pitched roof, probably a Greek Revival style. As we found out at an earlier council meeting, the walls are double brick. Why double brick? It stands the test of time, provides strength, blocks noise, and has superior thermal comfort. In fact, some houses now are being built with double brick. However, this would also make it expensive to move. I have heard a figure of around $150,000. I then asked myself, what moving companies were consulted to get this figure? One answer I got was that there were 3, but none of them are in Iowa, as we have no moving companies left in Iowa. A quick search on the internet found Goodwin Housing Moving Company in Washington, Iowa, which includes 5 generations of house movers, Furneaux and Sons House Moving in Marshalltown, Iowa, Billy Bell House Moving in Colfax, and Aylesworth House Movers in Wadena. Another option that I'm not sure has been explored yet, at least not discussed, is designing the parking ramp around 525 11th Street house. I just hope that one way or another, this brick gem can be preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. I think as you heard tonight, that we've directed the staff to look at those options, and they have said that they will and come back to us. So whatever options are available, I think we'll get to consider those. Thanks for your input. Any other comments? Okay. Discussion time. Randy? Will?
Yeah, I would like to request that we on the August 9th meeting that we could make a motion on there directing staff to apply for a TISP. What is it? TISP funding for a stoplight at Highway 100 and 31st Street. I was hoping.
I'll second that.
Yeah, hoping we could get that on the agenda. That intersection, well, Mike was talking about today too, that intersection has had quite a bit of accidents at it, and it'd be, I think, good for public safety to get a stoplight at that location. And this TISP
They're
application
severe
could
when
fund.
we have them. There aren't any little accidents. They're big.
Yeah, there's been 2 in the last 3.5 weeks.
Okay, what's the acronym stand for, please?
Traffic Safety Improvement Program.
So that's what tonight we approved the application for the one at 151 and 62nd. And this 31st Street 100 is maybe you could explain it a little better.
Yeah,
A
technically.
better ratio.
Yeah, so basically one of the big ratios that they look at, so the one that we're doing for 62nd and 151, the big number that they look at is the dollars that we're going to spend versus how much safety is it providing. And so they look at, if there's a fatality, they actually put a dollar amount on a fatality, on injuries, on property damage. They put all those numbers together and they put a ratio together of what efficiency are we getting or what return on investment are we getting on people's lives versus how much infrastructure are we putting on there. For the one that you guys approved tonight, it's about 1.5 to 1. Running the numbers really quick, it sounds like the one at 31st and Highway 100 would be about a 4 to 1.
Which sounds like that's a huge number for this. And what
That's
was
the big number they look at, but they look at a lot of things.
And then at the one at Hennessy and 13?
I think that was a 2.5.
And we were getting how much for that?
$500,000.
$500,000. This is a double almost.
Just as a point of order, folks, for placing an item on the agenda, there's no vote or anything that's necessary. Items can be placed on the agenda either at the request of the mayor or by any combination of two council members. So we already have the combination of two council members that would be necessary to do that.
Okay?
Yep. Just explaining why I wanted to put that on there.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. That's all I got.
I use that all the time.
Yeah, okay, so it's about public comments, and I think we've talked about it before, and I know we're still figuring out, we switched it to the end of the meeting, and I was speaking with the mayor about this, and I don't know what the perfect solution is, but I don't want to discourage people from being able to speak out at meetings, although I do want to be consistent and follow the rules that we put forth. Tonight's presentation that was allowed for the REC Drive discussion obviously made sense, but because there wasn't a public hearing, it didn't have a legit way to be on the agenda for that. And so I don't know if there's a way that could be on our cover page with all of the other rules we have about our public meeting. I think the mayor said that I really liked what he said about if it's a relevant comment to something on the agenda that we will be talking about, perhaps
By an impacted party.
by an impacted party. Again, I don't know the phrasing, but there have been several times, in the 7 months that I've sat here where, people have wanted to talk, and again, it's kind of the, do we do it or do we not? So just so that we can be consistent and protect ourselves about who we're letting come up and speak, I would like to see more opportunity. I don't know how we create that. I'm not in favor of moving the public comments back to the beginning for the reasons I stated before about people who just come and spew and leave. I don't think that that's fair either, but whatever the balance is, I just wanted to bring it up again because tonight was a good example.
I believe we actually have a meeting tomorrow to talk about agendas. So the staff's been researching how other cities handle and organize their agendas to bring some potential changes to the council. So we'll add that to the list.
Thanks. That's all I had.
Nothing.
Thank you. In my absence on the long-range planning, I understand a question come up, and I'd like to answer that tonight, because I had left early, and that was considering the water department. Now, Marion, historically got its water from the mill run, which was down behind Volkswagen. There was a feed mill or grinding mill down there, and that was the source of Marion's water. And eventually, in 1874, we drilled a well in the northeast corner of the park. And that well was lined with stone from Stone City. It was about 36 inches, according to the history on it. And in 1976, we were redoing the sidewalks in the park, and we uncovered this well. It had a concrete plaque over it, but you could drop a rock in there, and it took a long time for that thing to hit water. And it took 11 dump trucks full of sand, 690 tons, to fill that well up. The well itself, they put a windmill up in 1870s, and they would pump water out of that. J.C. Davis, who was the mayor, had a drinking fountain in the middle of the park, which we still have, that was fed by that thing, and it was spring water is what it was. In 1885, the city issued a franchise from a gentleman from Philadelphia and his partners, and we went along pretty well. The water, we were still dependent on the wells, the water from the mill pond, but we did use spring water, which came again from that well, and an additional well at 35 feet, a real shallow well, in front of the old police station on 11th Street. That was our water supply. We went along, and the water department developed and had some customers. The biggest customers it had, the railroad was $3,300 a year. and that was hydrant rental, plus $3,000 for private usage. The heating plant was $2,400, and Marion's population was 5,000 people, and it was only $400 for the water there. In 1941, they did away entirely, and we only had the wells, and we drilled our first well at 437 feet, and that was in the Solarium Aquifer, and we pumped still 500 gallons per minute out of that well. In November of 1950, the water company was sold to the city of Marion for $235,500. The Marion passed a bond issue for $250,000. The issue, extra money were used for improvements. It went to this vote of the citizens, and they voted that the water department should have a citizens board named by the mayor and approved by the city council. So that's when it came and become under the ownership of the city. Since then, we've drilled 3 or 4 other wells, have a very successful water department. People still wanted to use the spring water, incidentally, and the state came in and said you can't use it anymore. So you can envision that house we're talking about, or my house on 10th, had big cisterns. Rain like we had today would all go in the basement, and people would use that water. Our current board, the water board, is Craig Hapgood as the president. He's been on the water board for 40 years. Marianne McComas is on the board for 31 years, and Robert Anderson for 30. So, Mayor, you may have a situation in time when you're going to have to think about who you might want to put on the board for our water department.
Thanks, Paul. For my part, I just want to thank again the Marion Cedar Rapids East Rotary Club and Tom Barnes, who led that project to donate the street clock to the city. We had the ribbon cutting just a few days ago, and if you haven't seen it, drive by and take a look at it. It's really a great addition that really adds to the flavor of the historic feel of Uptown, and it was really a nice event dedicating that clock, and there were a lot of people there. Also, today we received notification of the
redesignation.
Redesignation, that's the word, of Marion as a great place by Iowa Great Places, which is a really wonderful achievement for us, which will open up doors for more grants for the Imagine Next projects, as it did for the Imagine 8 projects. So that's a really key thing for helping those projects to become reality. And I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for leading that effort to get the redesignation done, and reaching higher and continuing to try to improve the community in collaboration, very close collaboration and cooperation with our city staff, and lots of volunteers and people in the community who just care about Marion. So congratulations to all on the redesignation, and I think we have a closed session.
Yep. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the closed session regarding litigation and land acquisition as permitted under Section 21.51C and Section 21.51J of the Code of Iowa.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session. Regarding, well, our agenda says litigation, but you said and land acquisition?
Correct.
Okay. Pardon?
They are both listed.
Oh,
Both listed.
I don't know. I don't want to. Maybe I have an older version of the agenda. Okay. I brought my older version.
Yes,
I guess.
it was
Okay.
added.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session regarding litigation and land acquisition. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Your Honor. So these are actually two totally separate matters. It's not litigation and land acquisition of the same subject matter. And I have reviewed each of these matters separately, and pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5, subsection 1C, the litigation is appropriate for a closed session, and pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5, subparagraph 1, sub J, the land acquisition is appropriate subject matter for a closed session.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning to closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, we're adjourned to closed session.